Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka, and it is the 30th of November. If you're just joining us, it is a Friday, folks, and we have with us inside the studio Hans, who is part of the Grassrooted Trust, and they work they work in a different way. Instead of protests and speeches and marches, they tell stories, theater. They do theater and they do workshops, of course, to empower women, to find equality between the sexes. And let me, if you could just tell us who gets to go for the workshops that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, what we do is we work with the local organizations and we use their help to identify young leaders within the community, young men and women who've been exposed to other issues, and then we take them in and we train them on these very sensitive issues. And one of the things we tell them right at the start is, listen, this is not like talking about anything else, because we are going to talk about something very sensitive. We're going to use words like sex, and then we're going to be talking about the reproductive systems, and we're going to be talking about violence. So you need to be ready to be identified as a young leader who does talk about these things. So other young people will come to you because you will be a beacon there, but also you might face some flack for talking about these issues.
You're branded as something else.
Yes. Now, for example, if sometimes when we talk about HIV, people think we have it, and that's why we talk about it, which is okay, but you need to be ready for that. You need to be prepared for that. So we lay that out right at the start, and then we let them choose. Do you want to stay and continue with the workshop? And no hard feelings if you want to leave and you feel that this is too difficult.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you know, the story behind the people who come for this workshop, before they come in after, it's a little different story. So is there like a what do you call it, like a second meeting with them, or do you check up on them on how they do it?
I think that is where a lot of us fall down, because we go in and we do these workshops and then we leave, and
there's a follow-up.
There's a lack of a support network, because these kids, even with 4 to 5 days, there's only so much you can learn. So you need to stay connected with those participants. You need to continue to support them. So we always leave our numbers. We always we call them up and say, how's it going? What's been happening? What are the challenges you're facing? Is there anything that you need help with? They call us and they say, listen, there's this question we can't answer. Can you help us? Tell us where to look. And most often, when they say, how do we prove this? This is a really difficult thing. No one believes us. The simple thing we say is Google it.
Google it. Okay.
Because when you Google it, it's there.
It's there. It's there.
You don't need a doctor to explain it. It's there.
It's there. In simple terms, and at least 10 websites. My question now is, like, so you mentioned that just before the start of the workshop, you're told this is what you're going to go through if you're brave enough to do this, and people will be listening to you, or people might start looking at you a different way. With the calls that you get right after the workshop, what is the biggest challenge for them? Is it answering the question, or is the fact that they're getting now labeled as someone else or something else?
Basically, it's answering the question, because there's far more acceptance than you would think.
Oh, okay.
There's far more acceptance than you would think. Even the adults, because we work with the adults too. When we go into a community, we bring them. We call them gatekeepers. We bring the adults in. We bring the priests in and the other community leaders in, and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to be talking to your kids about. Do we have your support? Because the kids are going to need your support if we're going to do this. Because otherwise, we're just going to be a team from Colombo that has come in here and corrupted the kids. So everybody needs to be informed that this is the way it's going to happen. So most often, the struggles that they have post-workshop is answering the questions, not having enough information. So those resources are extremely important. And most of the time, when they do identify themselves as someone who has knowledge, a lot of the kids come flocking to them. And they want to know about reproduction, about contraception, so these issues are out there. And then these kids do become little beacons of hope for them.
It's very encouraging. Now, Hans, you've been doing the workshops for quite a while now. Is it getting easier now to come into the community, and like what you said, you involve religious people of probably the community. You get them involved, and you inform them what's gonna happen. You don't leave them blind as to just talking to the people at the workshop. Is it easier now to convince them that you need to do such a workshop, or is it still received with much apprehension, like, are you corrupting our minors? Or, you know?
We find that it is easier, and one of the reasons it is easier is because there's a lot of press as of late on cases of violence and cases of abuse, especially child abuse. So the community leaders feel that there is a need. And what we do is we run through the subjects that we are going to teach the kids with community leaders. And then they realize that they themselves have very little knowledge on what we're talking about. And then they want to learn more. And then they feel, listen, this is something that our kids need to know because we don't know about it. So I think overall, we're quite encouraged that when you go down to the community at the grassroots, they are ready for it. But there are others, if you like, who are not so connected with what's happening on the ground, that might have this sense of over-righteousness, if you like, that try to put a spoke in the wheel. But generally, the community itself is extremely receptive.
Well, we have time for just one more question. We spoke about this earlier. The 1 Billion Rising campaign kicks off on actually, for most, it will happen on the 4th of February. In the country, it's when?
Well, our part will be on April Fool's Day.
How are you excited about this? For those wondering about 1 Billion Rising, there is a website you can check. It's 1billionrising.org. The slogan is Strike, Dance, Rise, which I think is just perfectly a perfect fit for the Grassrooted Trust. How excited are you about this?
Well, we're very excited because we've been doing V-Day for a couple of years now, and this year our V-Day is going to be focused on 1 Billion Rising, and we're going to be telling local stories again, stories in Sinhala, stories in Tamil, stories in English, and they were very well received. You know, the trilingual production we did last year was very well received. So we are really hoping that this year, as part of 1 Billion Rising, we can tell some real Sri Lankan stories and help people understand that Sri Lanka is actually far readier than we think it is.
Well, thank you very much and very well said. Thank you, Hans, for coming today.
Thank you.
And, well, everyone have a great weekend. Don't forget, starting tomorrow, you'll get to check out Yes 101. We'll be broadcasting live from Park Street. We have to see you there. And also our 19th birthday is also coming up soon. So have a great weekend, everyone.